Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here. Welcome back to the Railway and welcome back to another review. It's an incredibly exciting time right now because Hornby have announced the first few items from their 2020 range, and I have the first one right here with me. I've been feverishly counting down the days, but finally it is here. So today's product has been highly anticipated. I've seen a lot of discussions about this one online and I'm really excited that I actually have one here to show you today. It is this, a pen. Now when I say a pen like that, it does sound a little bit naff and underwhelming, but don't make any mistakes. This is not just a pen. I should call this the pen rather, because this is the Hornby 100th year centenary pen. It isn't just a pen, it's quite obviously a symbol. 100 years all reflected in a single pen. Now I should talk a little bit about how I got this. I bought this directly from Hornby's website. It was very reasonable, in fact. I paid only £9.99 for this pen. Now to start with, when you think £9.99 and then pen, you might think that's quite a lot of money. But when you think about, you know, all the things you can write, all the things you can draw, all the things you can say with a pen, it's difficult to put a price on something like this. I mean, obviously Hornby have, and that price is £9.99, but I don't think that sounds too bad. On the other hand, the postage was very reasonable as well. If you think about all of the miles this pen has done in its journey to get to me, we're talking thousands of miles, Margate to where I am, well, hundreds of miles, 200 miles to be precise. The postage was only £4.98, which is only about half the value of the pen. And in all seriousness, Hornby, really? Couldn't you have made it a little cheaper? It can't have cost that much to ship a pen. But either way, I'm not complaining today because, well, I've got the pen. So let's open this up and see what this one is like. So the first thing you will notice is that this pen is not packaged in the standard Hornby box. On the many occasions I pictured this in my mind, I imagined that this would be in the sort of Hornby rolling stock box, perhaps with a window in the front so that we could see the pen. But as you can see, we have this anonymous white box instead, which I suppose is a security feature, because obviously if people could see the pen inside, the temptation would be there to try and steal it, wouldn't it? Anyway, if I show you the end of the box, you can see the product code for this is GS62617. Hornby pen, it says in capitals. I'm a bit concerned about that from the security point of view, but that's okay. And then we've got the barcode there. On the other end of the box, you can see quite an impressive little stamp here, because you can see that these were commissioned by the Queen and her son, which I'm sure was a nice activity for them both. So it's pretty exciting stuff all round, really. We've got a touch of royalty, and obviously we've got the fact that there is 100 years contained all inside a single pen. Anyway, let me carefully remove the outer box, and you can see that this pen was produced by Parker, who are obviously a very well-known company that produce all kinds of different pens and pencils and other office type equipment. Very impressive stuff already. And if we take off yet another protective sleeve, you can see revealed the instruction manual here, which I am going to just read briefly, because obviously you need to make sure you're not going to do anything that will damage it. So you can see we do have information on all sorts of different Parker pens. Fountain pen, I don't think that applies. But this is good. I mean, it makes you hungry for all the other sorts of pens that they offer. There's a rollerball and a ballpoint pen. I don't believe this is a rollerball pen. I think it is the ballpoint pen. And so there you can see is a whole range of instructions for those. And then on the back, there's quite a lot. Oh, I think this is to do with the guarantee. So obviously if your pen doesn't perform as you expect it to, you could probably send it for repairs or something like that. Hopefully though, that won't be, oh, I've just spotted it. I was going to say hopefully that won't be an issue. I'm sure it won't. There it is, folks. And you can tell really just from a glance what sort of quality we're dealing with here. So as you can see, it's sort of pinched in this felt lined packaging. Oh, I'm a bit worried about causing damage to this, but if I just lift this out carefully, you can see there it is. I've actually got it upside down, which is a little bit of a shame, but in a way that's quite good. You won't get the full effect until I'm ready, and I'll turn it around and show it to you. but there's a fair bit of weight. I will weigh this pen for you so that you can get a sense of how much this thing weighs. Quite clearly there is quite a lot of die cast on this from the off. I can feel that this upper section with the sort of pocket clip here is definitely die cast, which is really great. I mean, you'd expect that for the price. But yeah, so there it is, the Hornby 1920 to 2020 celebrationary centenary pen. And with that, I'm going to show you some of the details of this pen up close, but first of all, here's a little bit of history for you. Pens. Dating back as far as the ancient Egyptian times in 3000 BC, the basic function of the pen has remained pretty much unchanged throughout the years. That is, obviously, to apply ink to a surface, which is usually paper, for writing or drawing. This example is a 2019 ballpoint pen which was built by the Parker Pen Company and represents a relatively modern design of pen dating back approximately 132 years to exactly 1888. Also known as the biro or ball pen, this model evenly dispenses ink onto the desired surface by means of a small steel ball mounted into the tip. The design brings with it many advantages over the old dip style pens, which offered a much slower, messier and less reliable method of transferring ink from pen to paper. The Parker Pen Company was established by George Safford Parker in 1888, the very same year as the ballpoint pen was invented, although he did not invent it as far as I know. The company's first successful pen was reportedly the 1899 Parker jointless model, which was also known to bring a degree of raw joy and ecstasy to all that used them, until of course the design was abolished in 1928, as we all well know. Speaking of this pen in particular, only 1,500 of these pens were produced over the 2019 to 2020 period in order to celebrate Hornby's centenary year. At £9.99 a piece, this represents almost £15,000 worth of pens and over 2 litres of ink. All examples have been preserved as far as we know, except one which rolled off Arthur's desk out the front door and was crunched under the tyres of a large tractor. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the details. Alright, so there it is then, the precious Parker pen up close and personal for you, and now that I've had a chance to have a proper look at this, I can say overall this is pretty impressive. So this pen weighs in at 11 grams, which is more than double the weight of the biro that I usually use, which only weighs 5 grams. So chances are you are going to notice that you've changed your pen due to that extra weight, which is in no small part due to the large amount of die cast on the top end, as you can see there. Now, if I was going to be absolutely critical, and I don't really want to be today, but if I had to make a criticism, it's not dreadfully stable. As you can see, it is sort of perfectly fine like that, but I don't have to do much. In fact, all I have to really do is, say, clap my hands, and the pen falls over. It's not a huge problem. I mean, you can just stand it right back up again, and how that will actually affect performance, I'm not too sure. But yeah, that is something worth mentioning. Anyway, let's take a close look at some of the details. The painted details are excellent. As you can see, we have the gold lettering there. Hornby have not used that gold paint with the flecks in it, which doesn't look particularly convincing. This one looks much, much better. It's very easy to read. As you can also see, the joins between red plastic and sort of high shine metal are incredibly good. There's no sort of paint spillage between those two sections at all, which is fantastic to see. Oh, hang on. It's better. If you take a close look at the die cast section, you can see that we have an indentation there which says that this has been made in France. And I know a lot of people will be concerned by that, of course, but for me it doesn't matter too much. I can't smell anything. It seems absolutely fine. The sort of pocket pin clip here has quite a few nice details on it, and I think this is quite typical of Parker pens. You can see those lovely patterns printed onto there, which is great. The model does have sprung buffers, or rather one single sprung buffer. If I just spring this, this will be the first time I've sprung the buffer on this pen, so let me do this very carefully. Oh, I tell you what, there is some real tactile feedback on there. And as you can see, the actual tip, this is the ball point that I was talking about earlier, has now presented itself ready to write. Well, sorry about that, Mr. Ballpoint. We're not quite ready to write yet, but the moment's coming. I'll just pop him away for the time being so that we don't get distracted. Oh, it's falling over. There, yeah, you do have to handle this with some care, but if you're used to sort of handling the model trains, it's not much of an issue. Okay, so hopefully you get the picture really. You can see just what sort of finish we have on here. I really like the die cast, the paintwork is fantastic, and the moulded detail is really quite impressive. So now let's talk a little bit about the mechanism then. I'm going to take the body off, so to speak, and have a look inside, and then of course we'll give it a proper test and see how it runs across the paper. Okay, let's give it a go. Alright, so as you can see, pen and paper are together for the first time, and I'm going to give that a little try in just a second. But first of all, I will, as promised, open this up and show you inside. In fact, I've already done it. I've very, very carefully unscrewed the end to reveal the ink cartridge on the inside, which contains approximately 1.4 millilitres of ink. Although, of course, do bear in mind that the amount of ink will start to decrease as you begin to use the pen. I also found quite a nice spring on the inside, which obviously fits onto the cartridge really quite snugly. So all seems to be in order inside there. Anyway, I'm going to spring the buffer again to produce the arrival of the ballpoint. And what I thought I would do is just sort of place the pen onto the paper and then try to enter a meditative state in order to possibly receive a telepathic pictorial message from Frank himself. Hornby, that is, obviously, not Sinatra. Start spreading the news, I'm leaving today. So, yeah, let's just see if we can get anything here. Frank? Frank, is that you? Well, the pen is moving across the paper. It's hard to say what this is going to turn out like. But it must be said that the ball seems to rotate quite freely. Yeah, this feels really quite good in the hand. Now this could take rather a little while, so I think we'll cut there and I'll bring you back as soon as Frank's finished. Okay folks, I think the pen appears to have stopped. Right, well there's the finished product. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. It's hard to say whether this came from Frank's mind or whether it just came from my mind. Right, I think it's time we draw some conclusions about this pen. So, first of all then, the level of detail was quite obviously very, very impressive. I've given this a 4-star. I'm not entirely sure why. I can't justify it, I don't think, but I have just given it 4 stars, so hopefully that's okay. Performance, similarly, is pretty good. It does glide over the page relatively nicely, and it dispenses ink pretty evenly as it goes. I have noticed that on a couple of occasions, I don't know whether that was just due to Frank's gusto or not, but it has torn through the page in a few small areas, but apart from that the performance is excellent. The power is quite obviously extreme, just that doesn't require explanation I don't think. The mechanism is excellent. As you saw, it had springs and all sorts inside. The buffer works incredibly well, and of course the ballpoint nib presents itself quite readily and enthusiastically whenever required, so it has to be a 5-star. The quality is also excellent. I haven't told you about this, but secretly I did an endurance test whereby I tried to run it over with my desk chair. It evaded the desk chair many, many times despite my efforts, which obviously suggests that the spirit of Frank is well and truly alive within. So that has to be applauded. Obviously there's also a lot of die cast on this as well, so the quality is truly excellent. Value for money then, I mean this cost me £14.97 with postage, which I think is the most I've ever paid for a pen in my entire life, in the past, present or future. But to be fair, I do think it was worth it because the quality here is second to none. I have only given it a 4-star though, because I think a spare ink cartridge might be quite handy to have, because obviously they're quite specialist. You can't just swap it from another biro as you usually would. But besides that, yes, it's very good. 8.8 is the total there out of 10. Let's put it into the logbook, where you can see it is in top place actually, and I am pretty happy that I now have a pen in first place on my locomotive rankings, and I'm sure you are as well. So for now then folks, I think that is just about it. There we are, there's the pen of my dreams there for you. I hope you enjoyed that. Of course, let me know down in the comments what you think. Will you be buying one, or is it just a dream for you too? For the time being though, thank you very much for watching. A bit of a somber end. I've just become all sort of thoughtful and reverent, to be honest, towards this pen. Not a bad thing, of course. I'm just thinking about my future with it. But for the time being, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Happy penning.